here we go. We are live. Hi everyone, great to see you and welcome back to Winning the Game of Business Live. Today we're talking about something that most business owners very rarely stop to think about. What's your destination? What's your end game? Where is your business actually taking you? And it's funny, if you were to ask business owners what their plan for the week is, they've got plenty. If you ask them what their to-do list is for today, and my guess is that'll be endless. But if you ask them, what does your business look like when it's finished, the room often goes quiet. So let me frame this with something uncomfortable but important. Now, I don't know how true these statistics are, but it's often touted that in business, 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And of those 80% left, they'll fail in the next, or 80% of that 20% were left will fail in the 5 years after that. So if you survive in your business beyond 10 years, statistically, you're rare. So good questions would be asked. Why is that? Is it because people are lazy? No. Is it because they don't have any ideas? No. Is it because they have a lack of ambition? No. Is it because they're bad at what they do? That'll be also no. For me, it's because too many people jump on this treadmill called business and they start running like mad. They get their head down and just start running like mad. And they forget where they were ever running to. They never look up. They never set a destination. They never define what the end game looks like. Right, itchy nose. Now, most businesses start from a simple desire. The person opening the business wants more time, or they want more freedom, they want more money, or they want more control over their life. Yet often, within a few months or maybe a couple of years, the owner finds themselves busier than they ever were in a job. They've got a lot more stress. They're working evenings, they're working weekends. They're reacting to everything, and often they're totally consumed by the day-to-day operations of the business. And you know why that happens? Because they never stop to ask, what am I actually building towards? What does this business look like when I'm done with it? But without that clarity, you just end up repeating the same old cycles. You make the same decisions, the same routines, the same problems. It might be a different year, but everything looks exactly the same. It's a bit like a photocopied year. Now, when I coach business owners, I always start with what I call a roadmap to freedom code. Because here's the truth. A business is a vehicle. And it's a vehicle whose job is to take you somewhere in life. The thing is, you've got to decide where that somewhere is. So this morning I was sat with a business owner who's been running the company now for 20 years in one of these roadmap to freedom calls. And his business, it's got a good turnover, good margins, he's got a good team working for him. And I asked him a couple of questions that really stumped him. Was, what number do you need from this business to be able to walk away? And what does success look like in the end? And he couldn't answer either of those questions. Not because he's unambitious, but because he'd never stopped long enough to really think about it. So what we finally did, we dug into those two questions. What we uncovered were opportunities that he'd completely missed for years, simply because his focus always on today or this week, or in the early days, it was on survival. His focus on operations and sometimes on firefighting. But when you define your end game, your whole strategy changes. Let me give you a simple metaphor for this. Imagine you're going to get in your car and you're going to go on a long journey. You're not going to get in your car and start driving and say, I'll just see where I end up. No. What you do is you put a destination to the sat nav. Now, even though the destination is sat nav, even though you know where you're going, That doesn't mean you know every turn. It doesn't mean your route won't change. It doesn't mean there won't be any traffic or diversions or roadworks, but you always know where you're heading. And how that applies to business is like your long-term vision, that's your final destination. Your 12-month target, that's the next motorway junction. The 90-day plan, that's the next bridge that you can actually see. So you might not be able to see 150 miles ahead, but you can see the next bridge. And that's where strategy becomes real. Because if you can see the next 90 days clearly, you can make decisions that move you towards the bigger picture. Thinking on, before we go any further, let me just add something really important. A question that I ask in my complimentary coaching sessions, it's a simple enough question, but a lot of people have problems with it. I ask them, what are you actually trying to create here? Not the day-to-day, not the firefighting, not the task. What level of business are you trying to build? And I show them a scale. And the scale starts at the bottom at mediocre, then it's quite good, good, very good, best in region, best on planet. So I ask them, where do you want your business to sit on that scale? And here's the fascinating thing. Most people have never thought about it. Some people go for good, a few choose very good, a small number go for best in region. And in 18 years of coaching, only one person has ever pointed to that top level, best on planet. Just one. At the time, his business was just a dream. It hadn't even started. That business is now turning over £200 million. Here's the thing, here's the key. He wasn't necessarily the smartest business owner, very clever guy, very ambitious guy. He didn't have the most funding. In actual fact, I don't think he had any funding. He wasn't in the easiest of markets. He didn't have the best start. But what he did have was clarity. He had clarity of intention, clarity of ambition, clarity of his destination. And when you choose best on planet, you'll find you start thinking differently. You're definitely going to hire differently. You'll systemize your business differently. You will lead differently. And you will make decisions based on where you're going, not where you are. So let me ask you, what are you trying to create here? Where on that scale from mediocre, quite good, good, very good, best in region, best on planet, where on that scale do you want your business to be? And then have your decisions so far matched that ambition? Because the level you choose shapes the, put your teeth in, Kev, the level you choose shapes the strategy that you take. And in my 18 years of business coach, I've seen so many different end games. You know, there's people who want to sell the business and exit completely. There's people who want to pass it on to the next generation. There's people who want to have a business that can run without them so they can step back into more of an owner role. There's some people who want to use their business as a platform to acquire other businesses. Some people want to float, scale it up to an investment level. The client who chose the best on planet from that previous list, his dream was of having a float in his business on the stock exchange. Now, as I said, he's now past 200 million, so he's well on his way. Another owner I work with is simply wants his business to run without him so he can travel more and spend more time with his family. Another wants a business that he can pass on to his children, but he wants to pass on to them something that works, not something that's stressful and a chaotic mess. The thing is, there's no right end game. But there is a right end game for you. But if you haven't got an end game, you tend to drift. So let me ask you something honestly. What's your end game? What's the number that will free you up? What does your business look like when it's finished? What will it need to produce? Who's going to run it? What's your role going to be, if any? Now, If you don't know that, you're unable to measure your progress. You'll struggle to make strategic decisions, and you absolutely cannot build a business that's capable of working without you or not being so dependent on you. And in life, we tend to get what we focus on. And if you're focusing on nothing, you could end up with nothing. So here's my challenge for today. I want you to sit down for 30 minutes, grab a pen and paper, and start jotting down, what is your destination? What is the long-term vision? What is your 3-year goal? What is your 12-month goal? What's the 90-day targets you're going to need to hit to get towards that 12-month goal? So start at the top and work backwards. No, you don't have to get that perfect. You just have to make it clear. Because the moment you define your end game, your business stops being a treadmill and it starts becoming a vehicle with purpose. Now, if you want any help mapping out that journey, your goals, your numbers, your exit plan, your next steps, drop a comment or send me a message. Just let's make sure you're not just working hard, but you're working towards something meaningful. Okay, until next time, get really clear on your destination, because when you're really clear on that, you can and will keep winning this great game of business. Thank you for joining me.